It's your boy Nico Talks Football back with another video. Today I'm going to be discussing my thoughts on the Ballon Dor rankings. Officially, Ousmane Dembélé has won the 2025 Ballon d'Or. Yamal has finished second, Vitinha third, so on. But I'm here to talk about how they robbed Raphinha and Pedri, but specifically Raphinha. Raphinha got 5th place in the Ballon d'Or rankings. 5th, cinco, quinto, whatever you want to say, however many languages. Raphinha finished in 5th in the Ballon d'Or after that season. I'm going to be discussing it today on why I think Raphinha should have won the Ballon d'Or clearly ahead of anybody. Alright, first, Raphinha had 61 goals and assists in 64 games in all competitions last season. When we're talking about the Ballon d'Or, this is not just a 2025 award. This is 2024-2025, so we're talking about the whole season. Raphinha had 61 goals and assists, the most of any player, tied with, I think Salah had like 60 as well, but Raphinha had the most. Dembele had like 50 something. Yamal had like 30. Yamal had 38. So Raphinha had almost double the amount of goals and assists that Yamal had. Yet Yamal finished 3 places ahead of Raphinha. In the Champions League, which, okay, people want to compare these players. How do we compare Dembele and Raphinha? They play in different leagues. How do we compare Salah and Raphinha? They play in different leagues. How do we compare Vitinha and Raphinha? How do we you can compare Yamal and Raphinha play on the same team, same league, but you want to compare them? Champions League. That's how we compare these players. We look at what they did in the Champions League. Raphinha in the Champions League, 22 goals and assists, tied for most ever with Cristiano Ronaldo. One, in my opinion, the greatest player ever along with Messi. Those two are tied. Raphinha had more goals and assists in the singles Champions League season than Messi, Lewandowski, Neymar, all the names you want, all the top players that have played in the Champions League. Raphinha has the most goals and assists ever in a single Champions League campaign, tied with Cristiano Ronaldo with 22 in 14 games. Raphinha had 22 goals and assists in 14 games. That's like 1.5 goals and assists per game. Anyways, you want to talk about Messi, right? Messi was in his prime from 2010 to 2020. 10 years of Messi's prime with the teams that Messi had. Keep in mind, I'm going to talk about the help later, but 10 years in Messi's prime, the most goals and assists Messi ever had was 19. Raphinha had 22 goals and assists with that Barcelona team, which is much worse than what Messi was playing with. And you might say he played more games. I don't even think. Raphinha maybe played one more game because he got knocked out in the semifinals, whereas Messi was making the finals. So anyways, we're going to compare it to other people because I just want to throw out how absurd his Champions League season. We're talking about he tied Ronaldo and he beat Messi by 3 goals and assists. That's how insane his season was. When you compare to Dembele, Dembele had 14 goals and assists, so Raphinha had 8 more than Dembele. Yamal had 9. So Raphinha had more than double the amount of goals and assists Yamal had in the Champions League. You just let that sink in. Yet Yamal finished 3 places higher. And for people saying, oh, goals and assist stats, I understand it's not all about stats, and I will prove it's. I'm just stating the stats here because that's how we can compare and stuff. It's not just about stats. Raphinha led other categories too. Anyways, that for me that alone should put Raphinha at least top. Obviously top 3, at least top 2. The fact that he got 22 goals and assists in a single Champions League season equaling Ronaldo, that has never been done before. And you guys think Raphinha, I'm just talking goals and assists? No, he led other categories in the Champions League. Obviously he had the most goals, 13 in the competition, and then he had the most assists with 9 in the competition. Raphinha also led the Champions League in most big chances created. So he's not just a goal scorer, he's a playmaker. For all the people who want to say Yamal is a playmaker, Yamal does this, Yamal passes, Yamal has the best passing in football, Yamal can dribble. Raphinha had the most big chances created in the Champions League. And by some quite margin too. I think he was tied with someone else, but he wasn't tied with Yamal. Anyways, Raphinha had the most in the Champions League. Dembele wasn't even there. I don't know where Dembele was in that. So most goals and assists in the Champions League this season. And most big chances created. Most key passes in the Champions League, which is a difference. Big chances created is when you put like someone through on goal, or you play like a pass to someone when they're one-on-one with the keeper. Key passes is more of like if you play good through ball, if you play like a good cross. Raphinha he had the most key passes in the Champions League as well. So passing, goals and assists, chances created, Raphinha all at the top. And the last category, Raphinha was at the top, which is Raphinha was at the top of every single category in the Champions League, except for dribbling and ball recoveries. But Raphinha is not a defender, so it's not on him to have ball recoveries. Raphinha he was the highest rated SofaScore player in the Champions League, which means that every player that plays in the Champions League after a match, they get a certain rating based on how their performance was. So it's not just goals and assists, they look at everything. Passes, dribbling, they look at the games. Raphinha had the best rating in the Champions League, SofaScore rating in the Champions League, which means he was the highest rated player. He had better ratings than Yamal, better ratings than Dembele. So overall in the Champions League, which is the biggest competition in club football, this is how we compare the players. Raphinha had the most goals and assists, had the most big chances created, had the most key passes, and was the best rated player in the Champions League. That alone should put him at first. But we're not even going to get to what he did in La Liga too and in the treble stuff. And also, I'm going to make a whole nother video on this, like where I have the stats in front of me and I'm just going to read out because I wrote it out. Like right now, this is just all in my head, but I'm going to write them out and I'm just going to be reading them. But for now, I'm just saying off the top of my head, my thoughts and stuff. All right, Raphinha, other than the Champions League, Dembele had 14 goals and assists in the Champions League. He had 8 goals in the Champions League. 5 of those goals came against Brest. If you guys don't know Brest is a small club in France. And PSG played them in the qualifying round of 32 to get into the round of 16. He had 5 goals against them. When did Raphinha scored a hat-trick against Bayern Munich? Messi played Bayern Munich 10 times in his career. He never even got close to a hat-trick. The only person who's ever scored multiple hat-tricks against Bayern is Cristiano Ronaldo. Not even so. When you're talking about hat-tricks against Bayern, Raphinha had a hat-trick against Bayern. He had 2 goals against Dortmund. He had 5 goals against Benfica, every single in all. And then he had 2 goals against Inter. Well, the own goal, but anyways, 2 goals against Inter. So you're looking at Raphinha. He's scoring these goals against Inter Milan, Dortmund, Bayern Munich, Benfica, and Dembele's out here scoring 5 goals against Brest, who finished like 6th in the French league. Are you serious? Like, these people say, look at the games. Look at these games, bro. Dembele had 5 goals against Brest. So he scored a goal against Aston Villa, and then he scored a goal against Liverpool and against Arsenal. That's it, Dembele. So the 3 goals Dembele scored outside of Brest, Raphinha did all in one game against Bayern. Anyways, we're going to get into the knockout. Like, I don't know Dembele's stats. I know Raphinha's stats because I'm a Raphinha fan, but let me talk about Raphinha's stats in the knockout stages. In the round of 16 against Benfica, he had 3 goals and 1 assist in the whole tie. First leg and second leg. Barcelona in that leg scored 4 goals, and Raphinha had 4 goal contributions, which basically mean Raphinha was involved in every single Barcelona goal against Benfica. So he basically won them the round of 16 by himself. It's not by himself, but he put in the goals, he put in the assists. So it's him that he put Barcelona over the line. Against Dortmund, he had 3 goals and assists, and Barcelona scored 5 goals in that tie. So he had 3 goals out of Barcelona's 5 goals. In the semifinals against Inter, Raphinha was involved in 3 of Barcelona's 6 goals, which is 50%. So when you're looking at this in a total, Raphinha was involved in more than half of Barcelona's goals in the Champions League. And you want to throw out Yamal. Yamal was good against Inter Milan. Let's be honest. He was sensational against Inter Milan. He was the best player. But you want to go back and look at that Inter Milan game? Yamal was the one who missed the one-on-one with the keeper. Raphinha, he scored the one chance that Raphinha had in the second leg, he scored. Yamal, he missed it. And who played for Yamal that ball? Raphinha played an insane ball to Yamal in the final minute of the game. If Yamal scores that, Barcelona go through to the final. These are the little things that you guys have to see. Okay, so that's overall in the Champions League why in the Champions League, this is how you compare players. That's why he's better than Dembele. I already said why he's better than Yamal. Look, Yamal played sensational in the Champions League, but look, Raphinha was the one who... Football, you can't win. You can do as many dribbling, fancy stuff like Yamal does. That doesn't get you anywhere. You got to put the ball in the net. Raphinha took the ball. He put his teammates in positions to score, and he scored by himself. With no penalties, by the way. Raphinha did not score a single penalty in the Champions League. So when you want to compare it to Cristiano Ronaldo, for people saying Raphinha played more games than Ronaldo, guess what? Ronaldo had like 5 penalties. Raphinha didn't score a single penalty. Every single one of Raphinha's goals were goals from outside the box, inside, whatever. They were not penalties. They were all difficult goals. Anyways, Yamal scored great. He dribbles, he does everything. In the end, Raphinha put Barcelona over the line in the Champions League. And if it wasn't for their defense, he would have scored the winning goal that put them to the final. Now we look at Vitinha, because keep in mind, Raphinha wasn't just behind Yamal and Dembélé. Raphinha is behind Vitinha and Salah. Vitinha, he's a midfielder, right? Why doesn't Vitinha have the most chances created, the most key passes? Why doesn't he lead any of the Champions League stats? If you want to put Vitinha so high. We're going to get on to Pedri later. Salah, I have a big problem with Salah. Salah could have scored. I know Salah broke the record. The reason Salah is so high, for those people who don't know, Salah broke the record in the Premier League for most goals and assists in a single season. To me, that's irrelevant. Look, the Premier League, I didn't watch the Premier League a lot last year. The Premier League was nonsense last year. Man City was garbage. Arsenal was barely hung in there. Arsenal was medium. Chelsea was non-existent, and Manchester United obviously was non-existent. So Liverpool were competing with nobody. Liverpool won the league in March. They won the league by like 20 points. So it's irrelevant to me. If Salah was scoring these goals to win them the Premier League, it's different. Salah was scoring like in the last months of the season when the league was already done. In the Champions League, you want to know how many goals Salah had? For all those people saying Salah, with France Football who ranked Salah ahead of Raphinha. In the entire 2024-2025 Champions League, Mohamed Salah had 3 goals. 3 goals. 3 goals in the whole Champions League. Raphinha scored 3 goals in one game against Bayern Munich. Raphinha had as many goals as Salah did in one game against Bayern. That's all you need. I'm not gonna leave it right there. If you heard what I just said and still think Salah is ahead of Raphinha, congratulations. You don't know football. Alright, now let's look at other reasoning why I think Raphinha was ahead of everybody. Raphinha, compare the team that Raphinha had right now I'm comparing Raphinha to Dembélé. Outside of the Champions League, in all as a season. And this is going to come in my video, as I said. I don't know how many goals and assists Dembélé had in the first half of the season. However, I do know Dembélé in the first half of the season was non-existent. I don't think he had more than 10 goals and assists. This is a season award. It's 2024-2025 Ballon d'Or. Dembélé started playing when it was January. You're not going to consider that? Like, Raphinha was there from September until May. Even though his performances dropped after March, he was still scoring. Anyways, Raphinha was there the whole season. Another reason why I think Raphinha is ahead of Dembélé, look at the people that Raphinha played with compared to Dembélé. Dembélé's team, first of all, Dembélé's defense, let's compare defenses. Has Hakimi, first of all, has Donnarumma at goalkeeper, who was the best goalkeeper in all of Europe last season, without a doubt. In Barcelona had Szczesny, they took him off for retirement. They took Szczesny off the beaches in Poland, in the Bahamas, to, hey, Szczesny, come over here, we need you. That's the level that Raphinha is competing with compared to Dembélé. So Dembélé has Donnarumma in goal. He has Hakimi at right back, who's the best right back in the world, no doubt. Koundé's close. Hakimi is better than Koundé. He has Pacho and Marquinhos as center backs, which can be debatable with Cubarsí and Inigo Martinez. Those might be the same. At left back, PSG have Nuno Mendes, who is by far the best left back in the world, and also got robbed. I think Nuno Mendes should have finished top 5 in the Ballon d'Or at least. He has Nuno Mendes. Raphinha had Balde, who got injured. Balde wasn't reliable this season. He got injured a lot. Raphinha had Gerard Martin for the game against Inter Milan and Dortmund. Raphinha was playing football with Gerard Martin at left back for the games against Dortmund and Inter Milan. If you guys don't know, Gerard Martin is a Barcelona B player who got called up because Barcelona needed a left back for those games. Compare Gerard Martin, who's a Barcelona B player, to Nuno Mendes, who's the best left back in the world. Then we move into midfield. Barcelona arguably has a better midfield. Players maybe, but PSG as a collective is better. PSG has Vitinha, João Neves, and Fabian Ruiz in the midfield, who as a collective are better. Raphinha has Pedri, De Jong, and Fermin Lopez and Dani Olmo, who are both inconsistent. So Barcelona basically have De Jong and Pedri. Now let's get into the attacking line. Dembele has around him Barcola, Desir Doué, Kvaratskhelia, Gonzalo Ramos is his attacking line. Raphinha has Yamal. That's all Raphinha had last year. Lamine Yamal and Lewandowski, but a 37-year-old Lewandowski. And no depth. It was just Yamal. There was no other right winger last year for Barcelona. There was no other striker. Ferran Torres was there, yeah, but you're going to compare Ferran Torres to Doué? No. Raphinha had Yamal, and that's it. Dembele had Doué, Kvaratskhelia, who was amazing. Kvaratskhelia was amazing last year for the second half. Barcola, Gonzalo Ramos. Like, you can't compare. Those are the teams that Raphinha had. And also back to the teams of I know I'm going back to Ronaldo and Messi, but to take into account how big this Raphinha season was in the Champions League, Raphinha had 22 goals and assists in the Champions League with that team. Messi on his team had Suarez, Neymar, Iniesta, Busquets, Xavi, Piqué, Puyol at times, Jordi Alba, Dani Alves. You're going to compare that team to Raphinha's. And Raphinha still had 3 more goals and assists than Messi. I'm not saying Raphinha is a better player. I'm saying look at what he did this season with that team. That alone should put him at first place. What he did with that team in the Champions League. Compare Ronaldo's team now, who he equaled Ronaldo. Ronaldo had Karim Benzema, Gareth Bale, Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, Isco, Marcelo, Sergio Ramos, Nacho, Nacho's phenomenal, Dani Carvajal, and Courtois, and Keylor Navas. Compare that team to Raphinha's again. No, you can't. They don't compare. Like, I don't understand people, like, look at football as a greater, on the greater spectrum. Don't just look who won the Champions League. I could win the Put me on the PSG roster. I can't play. I'm not going to play a single minute. Hey, I won the Champions League. That doesn't mean I'm ahead of somebody just because I won the Champions League. You have to look into context. Another reason why, that was my reason to help, that was one of my reasons to help Raphinha had around him. Dembele had way more help. Salah had way more help. Salah and his team had Gravenberch. Let's go from defense to attack. Left back, Robertson. Center backs, Van Dijk, who was the best center back in the world last season. Konate, Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back. Center mids, McAllister, Gravenberch, and McAllister was the cam. In left winger, you had Cody Gakpo, Luis Diaz, and Diego Jota, RP Diego Jota. But that team. So you cannot tell me that they're very equal, but arguably Liverpool has a better team than Barcelona. But we already went why Raphinha is better than Salah. We don't need to keep saying people who think Salah had a better season than Raphinha. You don't know football. Another reason I have as to why Raphinha deserved the 2025 Ballon d'Or. Now we're going to go ahead of Lamine Yamal. This is big. Why I think Raphinha deserved it ahead of Lamine Yamal. Raphinha was more consistent than Lamine Yamal. That's the First of all, he had better statistics. He was more consistent. If you watch the games, yes, Yamal is important, more important than Raphinha maybe in some games. That doesn't mean he's better. Look, Yamal was, first of all, Raphinha was available for every single game for Barcelona this season, which means he did not get injured not one game. Yamal was injured for all of November and all of December. So that's already consistency right there. Raphinha wins that. He was available every single game for Barcelona. Next, Raphinha had better statistics than Yamal, double the statistics that Yamal had. Not even close, but we already said that. Raphinha was better in big games than Yamal. And I'm going to go over big games after this. Let me just go over big games right now. Against Real Madrid, Raphinha had 7 goals and assists in all games against Real Madrid. They played him 4 times. Against Bayern Munich, he had a hat-trick. Against Dortmund, in every single game they played them, he had 4 goals and assists in all. Benfica, he had 5 goals and assists in all. Inter, he had 3 goals and assists in all. Versus Atletico Madrid, he had 4 goals and assists in all the games. So these numbers are insane. This is how important. Every single one of those games, Raphinha put up numbers. He didn't let his team down. Yamal let his team down in some. Benfica, Yamal was non-existent in 2 of the Benfica games, which were very important. Real Madrid games, Yamal was pretty good in the Real Madrid games, I'll give you that. Bayern game, he played great, but yet no production. Yamal didn't help Barcelona score. He had 1 assist to Raphinha, but that's it. So he didn't really produce in that Bayern game, Yamal, like Raphinha did. Against Atletico Madrid, he scored like a winner or something, but Raphinha had better stats against Atletico Madrid. Against Dortmund, again, Raphinha better stats. Anyways, we look at consistency now. Raphinha in the big games showed up more than Yamal. In the games that were important, I look at Celta Vigo. If you guys were Barcelona last season, you watched that Celta Vigo game. Barcelona came after like a close Copa del Rey win against Real Madrid. Look at that Celta Vigo game. Yamal wasn't even available for that game. He came in the second half. So a crucial La Liga game. Real Madrid were 4 points. Were close, 4 points behind. So very close. If Barcelona lost that game, in my opinion, they would have lost the league. That game was so important that I when Barcelona were losing 3-1 to Celta Vigo, I almost started I was about to cry because I knew if Barcelona lost that game, Barcelona were going to lose La Liga. It was that simple. That game was so crucial. Barcelona went down 3-1 in that game. Yamal came in the second half. Yamal wasn't even available from the start. 3-1 down in that game. Raphinha assisted the ball to Dani Olmo to drag it back to 3-2. Raphinha then scored a header to make it 3-3. And then Raphinha scored a penalty to make it 4-3 and to give Barcelona the win 4-3 over Celta Vigo and keep Barcelona's lead in La Liga. So from going 3-1 down, he put the team on his back and said, come on, I'm going to give you guys 3 goals and I'm going to win you the game by myself. Football's not an individual sport, but he literally scored the goals for Barcelona to help him win that game. And then I already said in the knockouts why he was more important than Yamal. In the knockouts, he had Benfica, Yamal only had 1 goal and assist. Against Dortmund, Yamal only had 2 goals and assist. Against Inter, Yamal only had 1 goal and assist. So when you guys look at performances, you guys are acting like Raphinha just puts up goals and assists. No, look at the games. I watched the games. What Raphinha does better than Yamal? Ahead of the stats, because the stats for me are when you look at the stats, that's the most important thing. But let me look outside the stats. Yamal is a better dribbler than Raphinha. He's a better chance creation than Raphinha. However, I'm gonna mention this in my next point. First of all, Yamal's a right winger. Raphinha's a right winger playing on the left. So Raphinha's not in his natural position and he's doing all this. I'm gonna mention that later though. Raphinha, Yamal's a better dribbler and chance creator than Raphinha. I'll give you that. Raphinha's a better crosser of the ball than Yamal. Low-driven crosses, Raphinha's better. Raphinha's better at finding the pockets with his passes, which means he has better... Raphinha's accuracy and weight of pass is better than Yamal's. Watch. Raphinha's finishing and shooting is far better than Yamal's. Raphinha's production, which means goals and assists, is far better than Yamal's. Last season, I'm not saying... We're talking about last season. Raphinha's defending, tracking back, pressing, aggressiveness is a million times better than Yamal. Raphinha was running back, playing left back at times last year. Every time Yamal lost the ball, Yamal was tracking back, but most times when Yamal lost the ball, he's throwing his arms up, telling the referee for a foul. Every time Raphinha lost the ball, head down, sprint, got it back. Raphinha has better runs in behind than Yamal. You never see Yamal running in behind off the ball. Sorry if you guys don't understand that. Better off the ball movement. Raphinha has better off the ball movement than Yamal. Look at the amount of goals Raphinha scored last season. Watch how this is another thing that you guys have to watch the games to see these things. Watch how Raphinha, how dangerous he is with the defenders with his runs in behind. When Raphinha sprints and makes the runs in behind, the defenders are looking back because they got someone behind them. Yamal, they never do that with Yamal. Yamal never makes runs in behind. Raphinha's the only one in that attacking line who makes the runs. He does it all by himself. So that's, in my opinion, that's just things that Raphinha is better at than Yamal. Availability, Raphinha was available more than Lamine Yamal last season. And then goals and assists, output, that's pretty much it. What else do you want Raphinha to be better at? I don't understand. One of my last points here. Why Raphinha was better than everyone else, obviously, but another one of my reasons. Raphinha played last year in the left wing position. For you guys who might not know, Raphinha is not a left winger. Raphinha is a right winger. He is in Yamal's position. Yamal playing in his position. Let me just say this real quick. If Hansi Flick asked Lamine Yamal, can you play on the left? Can you play on the left wing for a game? Lamine Yamal would probably cry, moan, pout, and say, "No, Hansi, I'm not doing it." Sit out, make up some kind of excuse. You're telling me right now, Lamine Yamal would play on the left wing? No chance. Lamine Yamal is playing. You put Lamine Yamal on the left wing, he's gonna look at you and say, "You're disrespecting me. I'm Lamine Yamal. I'm the best player in the world." So no, Lamine Yamal doesn't have that class in that coachability that Raphinha has. Raphinha played on the left wing out of position last year and put up these numbers, led the Europe in all of these stats while playing on the left wing and out of position. So that alone, all these reasons alone should put Raphinha at first. But when you combine them, you combine all of these things, and he's at fifth. It's not even he's at second or third, he's at fifth with all these reasonings that I mentioned. I mean, that's pretty much about it. That's why the reasons I think Raphinha deserved the Ballon d'Or. Champions League output led in every stat. Help around him had far less help than Dembele ever had, and all the other people. Consistency, was the most consistent player in all of Europe. Another thing, Raphinha from September to about December was the best player in the world outside of stats. Watch the games, his dribbling, his runs it behind, his passing, his finishing, no doubt. Then when we talk about the second half of the season, Raphinha still had the best numbers, but I would say Pedri was a little bit better, and Yamal was better towards the latter end of the season, the last 2 months. But Raphinha didn't drop a lot, those two just elevated. When you look at it, Raphinha was the best player in the world for a longer period of time than anybody last season. I would say Raphinha was the best player in the world last season, outside of stats, for 5 months. Yamal was only the best player for 2 months. Pedri was the best player for 3 months. And Dembele wasn't the best player for any months. Watch Dembele. What does Dembele do that Raphinha does not do? What does Dembele do? He scores, he assists. Raphinha does that better than Dembele. You might say he dribble. Raphinha had better. If Raphinha had more dribbles completed than Dembele last year, because keep in mind Dembele was playing like a striker position. Raphinha had more chances created than Dembele. Raphinha had more ball recoveries than Dembele. Raphinha had obviously better rating than Dembele, more key passes than Dembele. Raphinha led Dembele in every single category, and Yamal, but except for dribbles. But anyways, that's another reason. Less help, and then out of position. As I said, Raphinha played out of position the whole year. Obviously, as I said, I'm gonna make another video here, when I read this stuff, so you guys can see them too. Because if you guys just hear some things that I might say, you guys might not know what I'm talking about. But I just wanted to make this now because obviously it happened yesterday. So I wanted to give my initial thoughts, but I will make another presentation where I will have all the stats on a PowerPoint, and they will be on the screen for all of you guys. But before I wanted to end this video, I also wanted to talk about Pedri for a little bit. And for all you guys, I know this is a long video, guys, but I'm a huge fan of Raphinha. He's my favorite player last season in the world. Right now, I'm starting to like Pedri a lot. But last season in the world, my favorite player was Raphinha. And another reason, his aura, the way he carried himself, his class. Raphinha, you could give Dembele and Yamal the next 20 Ballon d'Ors. They will never have the class that Raphinha had. Even yesterday, you saw how he came in with his family. Yamal and Dembele will never have the class that Raphinha has, the aura that Raphinha has. Just the way Raphinha carries himself, they will never be able. They can get 60 Ballon d'Ors. Raphinha beats them in that category. When you're looking at a player, when you tell me what player do you want on your team, I want a leader, a captain, someone who's going to give 100%. I want Raphinha. So when you guys look at this, I'm obviously a huge fan of Raphinha. He was my favorite player last year. So there might be bias in this, but I don't think there's bias in this. But for you guys saying he shouldn't have finished first, you might think I'm biased here. But it's just, you guys have to realize I'm a huge fan of Raphinha. I love Raphinha. I think he's a phenomenal player. But now it's time to talk about Pedri as well, because Pedri got robbed. First of all, Pedri should be ahead of Vitinha. Let's not. He should be top 5. Pedri should be ahead of Salah. Pedri should be ahead of Vitinha. Pedri arguably with Yamal. I'm going to say Yamal is just a little bit ahead of Pedri. But I'm gonna, as someone in this video who's gonna be on Pedri's side, I'm gonna explain to you why Pedri should low key be ahead of Yamal in the Ballon d'Or, and not Dembele. In my opinion, Pedri should be ahead of Dembele. But I'm not going to be biased like that. I'm a football fan. I understand Dembele had a great season. He won the Champions League and he helped PSG a lot. So I'm not going to sit here and say Pedri should have been ahead of Dembele. I'm just going to tell you why Pedri should have been ahead of in my opinion, third place ahead of Yamal, Salah, Vitinha, and everybody else. Watch Barcelona last year from September to March, for the whole season, but specifically from September to March, and tell me who the most important player for Barcelona it is. It isn't Yamal, it isn't maybe Raphinha was the best player, that doesn't mean he's the most important. The most important player for Barcelona is Pedri. Watch Barcelona when they didn't have Pedri last season in that game against Dortmund. Watch what happened. They lost 3-1. They got absolutely smoked in that game. Watch, there's really not any stats I could really say. Like, with Raphinha, I could make of an hour video because I have stats. For Pedri, there isn't really stats. You have to watch the games. Pedri, his ball recoveries last year were sensational. His passing into the final third was sensational. Every single pass Pedri made last season was the correct decision in most games. And then ahead of, this segment isn't going to be long because there's no stats here really, but Pedri should be ahead of Vitinha. Pedri and Vitinha should swap places in my opinion. Vitinha should be outside the top 10. Pedri should be third. Pedri, when you look at football, look at the game. Look how Pedri carries the ball into the midfield. Look how he gets it from the center back. Look how he spreads the ball out wide. Hey, spread the ball. That's a key phrase. Spreads the ball out wide. The biggest job of a midfielder is to open the play and switch the field. Pedri does that better than anybody. He opening up the field. He gets the ball from the left. He transitions it to the right. Yamal last season without Pedri would be non-existent. Every single Yamal chance that he had last year was mostly created by Pedri. So Pedri gets the ball from the left, he puts it to the right, he gets the ball from the right, he puts it to the left. He is the engine of Barcelona. Every time I watched Vitinha play last season, which was in the Champions League and the Nations League, because I'm not going to watch Vitinha play in the French League against Marseille on a Monday night. Nope. Every time I watched Vitinha play last season, he either passed the ball backwards or sideways. No chances created, no dribbles, no shots. I didn't see Vitinha having shots, dribbles. I saw the Nations League against Portugal. Vitinha was arguably the worst midfielder in that game. João Neves played better than him, and Bruno Fernandes played better than Vitinha in that game. For me, Vitinha is really not a great midfielder. I can name you midfielders right now who are way better than Vitinha. I think Gravenberch from Liverpool is better than Vitinha. I think De Jong from Barcelona is better than Vitinha. I think João Neves from PSG on his own team has a higher potential than Vitinha. I think Alex Baena from Villarreal, but now he plays for Atletico, is better than Vitinha. I would take Fermin Lopez ahead of Vitinha. Bruno Fernandes ahead of Vitinha. Bellingham ahead of Valverde. Oh, I forgot about Valverde. Sorry, guys. Valverde obviously is the next best midfielder behind Pedri. Valverde ahead of Vitinha. Everybody ahead of Vitinha. For me, I don't see it in Vitinha. How does he get third place? Because he won the Nations League and the Champions League? João Neves was arguably better than Vitinha in the Champions League, in my opinion. Vitinha, compare Pedri and Vitinha. I can't really say anything for Pedri except, in my opinion, he should have finished third, and go watch the games. That's the only thing I can really tell you. For anyone still watching this video, if you want to see how good Pedri is, get this device that you guys all have. I know you guys all have it. You use it for 10 hours a day. Type in Pedri highlights. Look at the games that Pedri played this season. You will be amazed. If you're ever bored staring at the ceiling at home, laying down, doing nothing, look at Pedri highlights. You will see why him at 11th is a robbery. And you will even tell, after you watch, you'll probably tell me he should be ahead of Dembele, Raphinha, Yamal, everyone else. Because right now, he's the best player in the world. Last season, he was one of the best players. So, when I see people like Cole Palmer ahead of Pedri, because Cole Palmer had a good performance against PSG in the Club World Cup, game is truly gone. The game of football is truly gone, guys. Raphinha at 5th and Pedri at 11th behind Cole Palmer, Donnarumma, and Hakimi, everyone else. But behind Cole Palmer, Pedri Gonzalez. Pedri Gonzalez from Spain, born and raised in Spain, is behind Cole Palmer in the Ballon d'Or. That was my thoughts. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'm obviously going to make another video following up, but for now, thank you for watching, and until next time, Nico out.